Hello, I'm Eddie Brock. All right, so this is clearly a different setup. If the lighting's weird, it's because it's like pretty late at night, but Tyler and Nikki were nice enough to let me use their brand new home to film this video, and this is Tyler's setup, so that's what you're seeing. It looks really cool though, right? He's got like two of my big stickers on a dresser over there. It's cool. We got art. He's like making faces at me from up there. It's cool. So yeah, we saw Venom today. Venom's been getting some pretty terrible reviews. If you guys haven't been paying attention, when I checked it the first time yesterday, it was at a 35%. It was lowered to a 29% by the time I was able to tell anybody that it was a 35%. So I was going in with very low expectations. I already had very low expectations, and I'll be honest, the only reason why I really cared enough to see this opening night was because I already had to be in town because I have an optometrist appointment in the morning. And because for whatever reason, usually when I talk about Venom, it gets decent interaction. And I've had like one video do kind of poorly for Venom. So I figured, why not? Why not? Let's see how this pans out for me. That's terrible, but that's why we're here. So I saw Venom. You guys want to know about Venom? Let's get into it. So here we're just going to do I'm going to give you like the little loose kind of quick notes review for the people who might be interested in seeing it. So right off the bat, I'm going to let you know the plot is terrible. It is a terrible, terrible plot. The story is garbage. In my opinion, I think they could have gone in a significantly more interesting direction. I think that the trailers made it seem like they were going in a different direction, and then they kind of didn't, and it's, I don't know, it was kind of weird, and kind of what I expected. There was some like tonal issues because originally it was supposed to be an R-rated movie that got worked its way down to a PG-13 rating. So there's some scenes in the beginning that are like kind of graphically brutal that I think would have continued throughout the movie, which might have given it a little bit more of a horror vibe, but then that obviously didn't completely stick because they had to tone it down. So again, you just kind of get these weird tonal shifts and moments. There's moments where they've clearly cut out the F word, just things like that. Now I know there's some like rumors going around saying that it was specifically like 40 minutes of the movie got cut. I know that Tom Hardy did confirm that some of his favorite moments of the movie were cut. And while I can't necessarily pinpoint what those would be, there are clearly moments where it was either written so poorly that things just switch with the narrative very quickly and they don't bother explaining it, or what would have been the explanation was cut out. We'll get into some specifics on that in a little bit for those of you who don't care about spoilers and just want to discuss it. In terms of Eddie Brock and the symbiote, or Venom, most of the dialogue got to the point that it was so ridiculous that it became entertaining, but it was still really bad. If you kind of really broke it down at his nature, a lot of the discussions back and forth were really awkward. Some of it was just unnecessary humor thrown in. It was really cheap laughs. But again, it was still not as bad as I expected going into it. Like I wouldn't give it a 29% rating. I would say it's not as bad as your Daredevils, your like Fantastic Fours, Electras. I'd probably put it more on point with kind of the Edward Norton Incredible Hulk, but with like more awkward moments. It's kind of forgettable. I still maintain that Eddie Brock sounds more like he has brain damage, and it's not because of the symbiote. I was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt that he was talking weird because, Venom was taking him over. He just sounds like that the entire movie. He literally just comes across as somebody who's been kicked in the head too many times. But then it got to the point, it was just kind of funny. It was so awkward. And yeah, it just sounded like he kind of had some brain damage. But, that's besides the point. I know that was supposed to be a New York accent. That's not what it sounded like. There's going to be one of those Wired or Vice, whoever did it, I think it's Wired accent breakdowns, and that guy's going to be like, this is not a New York accent. That's the impression that I get of it. So yeah, those are kind of the quick notes. Acting is pretty average. A lot of the line delivery is average. The kind of relationship between Venom and Eddie is entertaining at some points, but it's all like cheap, and if I cared more about going into this movie, I probably would have been really upset, but I'd been broken down to the point that after hearing the turd in the wind line, there was nowhere for it to go. My expectations were rock bottom from that point, and the reviews started coming out, so I feel like if I had had more hopes for it, I would have been significantly more disappointed, but with like the sheer level of lowness that I had. It was fine. Tyler says the turds don't move in the wind, they sit still, and that's an accurate...
So that line doesn't make any sense.
It really doesn't. There was a bunch of people being like, it said bird in the wind. No, it fucking didn't. It said turd in the wind. They articulated turd. It's exactly what it said.
My favorite part was there was a car chase and Venom did a thing and this guy was like, what the... But you know he was definitely going to say, what the fuck? But they changed the rating because they needed to save the one fuck they could use for Eddie Brock to say.
Now I have to change the rating of this video, so it's, so it's great. But yeah, if I had cared more, I would have been more bothered by some of the lines, but because I just had no expectations at that point, I was letting it happen. Just letting it happen, but the villains were terrible. There was like some semblance of a potential good idea in there, and they just didn't follow through on it. The plot was terrible. I have no hopes for the potential sequels that I hope get canceled at this point. I will probably make a quick second video talking about the mid-credit scene because I don't know, people seem to like those for some reason. So yeah. All right, now we're gonna get into some like spoiler territories where I go over some like specific things that I didn't like or things that I found didn't make sense. So if you really don't want to know any of that, this is probably the time to click off. Overall, I would not necessarily recommend this movie. I'm sure there's better movies out right now. All right, so one of the things that happened is that obviously in the beginning, Venom is just using Eddie as a host, which is pretty standard. And then it just kind of gets all convoluted. There's like literal discussions of like Venom being like, I'm just using you, and if you're lucky, you'll survive it. And then it was like an instant flip where suddenly not only does he care about Eddie, he also suddenly cares about the human race. And there was no explanation. There was nothing that happened in between. There was nothing that Eddie did to make Venom suddenly be like, yeah, okay, like Earth's a pretty cool place to be. I'll live with this meat suit. This seems fun. It didn't make sense. And then the story itself was so stupid. Basically, evil Elon Musk guy here just has this spaceship just going around looking for new inhabitable planets, comes across a comet that has a bunch of the symbiotes on it, and they take samples back, and that's how they all get to Earth. And then there's this crazy crash landing that, honestly, had they just used the end scene of the really terrible movie Life, where that ends with all the weird Venom-looking stuff, it would have been better than what we got on screen. It's like it started as some kind of alien invasion horror movie that very quickly just became... They started playing some weird, awkward rap music behind Eddie Brock. That's the other thing. The music tones in this, other than like one or two spots, was just really, really awkward. Like, there's good ways to add music to a movie. There's bad ways to add music to a movie. This did it the bad way. You never want a song to start playing behind a character and you just cringe. Like, I feel like the first 5 minutes of this movie was just me internally cringing at how awkward and terrible everything was. Oh, and then this part wasn't explicitly explained, but I'm sure this is what was happening. Basically, they noticed that even if the symbiote finds a host that it can attach itself to, because that's the big thing, is that there's only certain people that the symbiote can attach to without immediately killing them. They start dying anyways. It's like the symbiote's thriving, but the organs of the host are being consumed and dying. And I'm pretty sure it's actually just that if the symbiote can't find an actual living person or thing to eat, it just starts eating the inside of the host. So that starts happening to Eddie, but they never actually explicitly explain when Venom's like, yeah, I was eating you, but I've just decided to stop now. It's never said out loud. I'm sure that's what happened, but I just feel like there was a bunch of stuff that just didn't get explained, and it was weird. Oh, and at one point, Venom takes over Michelle Williams' character, Annie, or Anne, and that doesn't make sense because if they all need these perfect hosts, why it's just so convenient that she would also be a host that it wouldn't immediately try to reject, and she could actually use the Venom powers. It's all very weird, and you can make the argument that's lower level symbiotes can't do it, and higher levels they can hold on to things more. But Venom even says he's a loser. It's all it's very weird. It's very tonally weird, and I don't know entirely what they were going for. Yeah. So they're definitely setting up for a sequel with Cletus Cassidy, or Carnage, which I don't really know how they're planning on going about doing that. I kind of figured that he would have been like a test subject that maybe escaped or something, but they're going like completely, Scorch is right there. They're going like a completely different direction with it, I'm assuming, because he's already locked up in prison, and it's just, I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. It was pretty much what I expected it to be. I don't think it's as bad as some people are saying, but I also don't know if that's just because I went in with like the absolute lowest expectations, and if I start breaking it down piece by piece, it's not a good movie by any means, but parts of it were at least enjoyable to sit through. I had a way better time watching this than I did watching Jurassic World, The Fallen Kingdom. That made me mad. This was just kind of like, I think I knew it was going to be stupid right from the get-go, so I was just like, I'm not even considering this a Spider-Man thing. Is there like a limit to how much somebody can fuck up an IP before they just forcefully take it away? Like, can Sony make so many mistakes making these movies that Marvel is just like, we don't care about the law, you've lost your privileges? Probably not. Fox would have lost it after that last Fan 4-stick movie. Oh yeah, the ending. So they're gonna go back up to space to get the other million symbiotes in this spaceship thing. That's what they're gonna go do with Riot, because that was also stupid. Everything was stupid when it came to that. And they were just gonna bring them down to Earth. So even Venom managed to become a world-saving mission. When are you guys gonna realize that not everything has to be world-level insane? Yes, Infinity War affect the entire world. Spider-Man Homecoming was fine the way, like, it worked better when it was just like, the only people that are really gonna be affected right now are the people of New York. And that was fine, and it worked, and it made sense. Like, not everything has to be like, oh my god, I'm gonna save the world now. Venom, I'm Eddie Brock. No, it was dumb. I hate it when they do that. It's why, as much as I love X-Men movies, it's why they fuck up. Not every single thing that happens can be a world-destroying event. Anyways, that's gonna do it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a fantastic day. I'll catch you all later.